It started on a quiet October evening in the small coastal town of Black, Oregon. The kind of town where fog rolled in from the ocean like a living thing, and the streets emptied before midnight. Daniel Harper had lived there his entire life, though he always felt like he was meant for something bigger. At 32 years old, Daniel worked as a freelance photographer, mostly weddings, local events, and real estate listings. Hardly the kind of work that satisfied his artistic hunger. He lived alone in a narrow two-story house at the end of Willow Creek Road, surrounded by tall pine trees that whispered constantly in the wind. His closest friend, Marcus Reed, often joked that Daniel's house looked like the perfect setting for a horror movie, and Daniel would laugh it off. But that night, as the fog pressed thickly against his windows, he would later remember Marcus's words and wish he had taken them more seriously. It was just past 9:30 p.m. when Daniel decided to visit the old flea market near Harbor Street. The place was closing soon, but Daniel had a habit of browsing late, searching for vintage lenses or forgotten treasures. He liked objects with history, things that carried stories within them. The flea market was nearly empty when he arrived, stalls covered with plastic sheets, vendors packing up in silence. That's when he noticed an elderly man sitting behind a small wooden table near the far corner, half hidden in shadow. The man had pale, almost translucent skin and wore a dark gray coat. Despite the mild weather, on his table sat a single object, an old-fashioned camera. It was a Polaroid-style instant camera, black with silver trimming, scratched and worn but strangely elegant. Daniel felt drawn to it immediately. He stepped closer. "How much?" he asked casually. The old man didn't smile. His eyes, a strange shade of icy blue, locked onto Daniel's. $50, he said in a low, almost echoing voice. Daniel raised an eyebrow. "That's cheap for something this old." The man tilted his head slightly. "It sees more than others." Daniel chuckled nervously. "What's that supposed to mean?" The old man didn't respond. Instead, he pushed the camera forward. "It shows you what's coming." A cold breeze swept through the stall, though there were no open doors nearby. Daniel hesitated for a moment, but curiosity won. He handed over the money. "And us indeed." The old man's fingers brushed against his hand, ice cold, unnaturally cold. Daniel shivered. When he looked up again, the man was already packing up, turning his back without another word. The entire exchange left Daniel unsettled, but he brushed it off as eccentric flea market theatrics. Back home, Daniel placed the camera on his kitchen table and examined it more closely. It looked functional, surprisingly well-maintained despite its age. A small engraving on the side caught his attention. Eclipse Model X. He searched the brand on his phone but found nothing. No manufacturer. No history, like it didn't exist. "Weird," he muttered. He loaded it with the film cartridge that had come with it and decided to test it. He pointed the camera at his living room wall and pressed the shutter. The flash burst brightly, momentarily, blinding him. The familiar worry sound followed as the photo slid out slowly. Daniel waited, watching the blank surface develop. But as the image formed, his heartbeat began to quicken. It wasn't the living room wall. It was his front porch, and lying on the porch steps was a body. Daniel felt the blood drain from his face. The image was crystal clear. A man wearing a dark jacket, face turned sideways, blood pooling beneath his head. The porch light illuminated the scene with eerie clarity. Daniel dropped the photo. "What the hell?" he whispered. He rushed to the front door and flung it open. The porch was empty. No body. No blood. Just the faint sound of wind through the trees. He stepped outside, scanning the yard. Nothing. Completely normal. He laughed nervously. Okay, good one. Maybe it was some kind of prank camera, preloaded with fake images. That had to be it. He returned inside, trying to calm himself. To prove his theory, he pointed the camera toward his kitchen and took another shot. The flash went off. The photo slid out. This time, his hands trembled as he waited for the image to develop. Slowly, shapes appeared. It was the kitchen, but in the image, the clock on the microwave read 11:47 p.m., nearly 2 hours ahead. And standing behind Daniel, partially hidden in shadow, was a figure. Tall, indistinct. Watching him, Daniel spun around immediately. The kitchen was empty. His breathing became shallow. He checked the time. 9:52 p.m. The photo clearly showed a future moment. No, that's impossible. He stared at the figure in the photograph. It didn't have clear features, just a dark silhouette with long arms and an unnatural posture. Its head seemed slightly tilted, as if studying him. A sudden chill filled the room. Daniel backed away slowly, knocking into a chair. His rational mind tried to explain it away. Edited film, hallucination, stress. But deep down, he felt something else. Dread. He decided to call Marcus. "You're not going to believe this," Daniel said, pacing across the living room as he explained the situation. Marcus laughed at first. "You bought a haunted camera from a creepy old guy. Seriously? Ill. That's horror movie. Rule number 1. Man, I'm not joking," Daniel insisted. "The photos. They're showing things that haven't happened yet." There was a pause. "Okay," Marcus said more seriously. "Send me a picture of them." "Photos." Daniel snapped a photo with his phone and sent it. A few seconds later, Marcus responded, "Dude, that's messed up. You see the figure, right?" "Yeah. That's not photoshopped." "No." Marcus hesitated. "All right. I'm coming over." By the time Marcus arrived, the fog outside had thickened, wrapping around the house like a suffocating blanket. Daniel showed him both photographs. Marcus studied them carefully. "Maybe it's some advanced prank device," he suggested, "like augmented reality or something. From a flea market." Daniel shot back to test it again. Marcus grabbed the camera. "Let's take one together." He aimed it at the front door and clicked the shutter. They both watched as the image developed, and this time neither of them laughed. The photo showed the front door shattered inward, splintered wood everywhere, and standing in the doorway was that same tall shadow figure. Only this time it was closer. Much closer. Daniel's heart pounded violently in his chest. "This isn't funny," Marcus whispered. As if on cue, a loud bang echoed from outside. Both men froze. Another bang, like something hitting the door. Daniel slowly turned his head toward the entrance. Silence. Then 3 slow knocks. Marcus swallowed hard. "You're not expecting anyone, right?" Daniel shook his head. The knocking continued. Slow, deliberate. Exactly 3 each time. Daniel's mind raced. Depoto. The shattered door. The shadow figure. "Don't open it," Marcus said quietly. The knocking stopped abruptly. An unnatural silence filled the house. Then Daniel's phone buzzed. He nearly jumped out of his skin. It was a notification from a local news app. Breaking news. Body found on Willow Creek Road. Daniel felt his stomach twist. He opened the article. The victim, a middle-aged man found dead on his front porch. Daniel's address was listed beneath. His hands began to shake uncontrollably. That's my house, he whispered. Marcus grabbed the phone. But we're here. No one's dead. Daniel's mind flashed back to the first photograph, the body on the porch steps. It hadn't happened yet. The camera, he breathed. It's not just showing random futures. It's showing what's going to happen. Here. Another knock echoed through the house, this time louder, more aggressive. The door handle began to rattle violently. Marcus backed away. Call the police. Daniel reached for his phone, but the screen flickered and went black. The lights in the house dimmed briefly before returning to normal. The temperature dropped drastically. Their breath became visible in the air. And then, slowly, the front porch light turned on by itself. Through the small window beside the door, Daniel saw something move. A tall shadow standing just outside, watching. Complete silence followed. Marcus whispered, "What if the camera isn't just predicting the future? What if it's causing it?" Daniel felt a cold realization settle deep in his chest. Every photo brought the future closer. Every image developed into reality. And somewhere, out there in the darkness, something was waiting for the right moment to step inside. Daniel looked down at the camera resting on the table. It sat there innocently, as if unaware of the terror it had unleashed. But as he stared at it, he could swear the lens shifted slightly, focusing on him, watching, waiting. And then, without anyone touching it, the camera's shutter clicked on its own. A new photograph slowly slid out. The photograph slid out slowly, the soft, mechanical worry sound filling the silent room like a countdown to something inevitable. Neither Daniel nor Marcus moved at first. The camera had activated on its own, no hands, no pressure on the shutter button. It simply chose to capture something. Daniel forced himself to step forward, his legs weak, and carefully picked up the developing photo. His fingers trembled as the blank surface slowly began to darken. Shapes, formed, shadows deepened. And then the image became clear enough to steal the air from his lungs. It was the living room. The exact room they were standing in. The timestamp in the lower corner read 12:03 a.m. and on the floor, near the base of the staircase, lay Marcus, his body twisted unnaturally, gills wide open, a dark pool spreading beneath his head. Daniel's throat tightened. He couldn't breathe. "What does it show?" Marcus asked quietly, already sensing the answer. Daniel turned the photo toward him. Marcus stared at it in disbelief, his face draining of color. "That's not funny," he muttered. "That's not funny at all." Daniel checked the clock on the wall. 10:41 p.m., over an hour before the time stamped in the image. "It's showing the future again," Daniel whispered. "And this time, it's you." Marcus took a shaky step backward. Okay. We stay calm. If it shows the future, then we change it. Daniel wanted to believe that. He needed to believe that. "Maybe if we leave the house," Marcus continued, "whatever happens in that picture won't happen." Another loud bang shook the front door. Both men flinched. The handle twisted violently again, but this time it didn't stop. Slowly, deliberately, the door began to crack open just an inch. Cold air poured inside, like a living thing. Daniel grabbed Marcus's arm. "Don't go near it." The porch light flickered wildly, casting distorted shadows across the walls. From the narrow opening in the door, darkness stretched unnaturally long, creeping across the floor like fingers searching for something to grasp. Then the door slammed shut on its own with a deafening crash. Silence followed, heavy, suffocating silence. Marcus swallowed hard. "We're not staying here." Daniel nodded. "Grab your keys." They moved quickly, adrenaline pushing them forward. Marcus headed toward the staircase to retrieve his jacket from the upstairs guest room. Daniel remained in the living room, staring at the photo again. Las 12:03 de la mañana, a Marcos dead, position near the stairs. A thought struck him like lightning. Marcus, wait, he's so dead. He's so dead. But it was too late. Marcus had already reached the third step when the wood beneath him cracked loudly. He stumbled, grabbing the railing to steady himself. "I'm fine," Marcus called out nervously. Daniel's eyes darted between Marcus and the photograph. The image showed Marcus at the bottom of the staircase, not halfway up. Something different had to happen. Something that led to that final position. "Don't go upstairs," Daniel yelled. "It happens near the stairs." Marcus froze. "What do you mean?" Suddenly, the lights flickered again. More violently this time. The entire house trembled, as though something massive had slammed against its foundation. A low humming sound began vibrating through the walls, deep, mechanical, unnatural. Daniel's ears rang from the pressure. The staircase groaned loudly. Then the humming stopped. Marcus slowly stepped back down. "We're leaving now." They rushed toward the back door instead of the front, thinking whatever stood outside would expect them to exit through the main entrance. Daniel flung the back door open. The yard beyond looked wrong. The fog had thickened into a dense, swirling mass that obscured everything beyond a few feet. The world outside felt empty. "Hollow. Just run to the car," Marcus said. They stepped out cautiously. The air was freezing, far colder than it should have been. Daniel's breath came in sharp bursts as they hurried toward the driveway. But when they reached it, both men stopped dead in their tracks. The car wasn't there. The driveway stretched longer than it should have, extending into darkness like an endless road. Daniel blinked rapidly. "This isn't right." Marcus turned slowly. The house behind them no longer looked like Daniel's home. The windows were black voids. The structure, taller, distorted, stretching upward into the night sky. "We didn't leave," Marcus whispered. "We're still inside." As if responding to his words, the fog peeled away violently, revealing the living room around them once more. They were standing exactly where they had been moments earlier. The back door was closed. Locked. Daniel staggered backward, nearly dropping the photograph. "It's not just showing the future," he said hoarsely. "It's controlling space." Looked at the camera sitting on the kitchen table. "Destroy it." Daniel didn't hesitate. He grabbed the camera and slammed it against the counter. Once, twice, 3 times. The plastic casing cracked, but the lens remained intact. The humming sound returned louder. This time, the camera grew warm in his hands. Then, hot. Daniel dropped it with a cry as it burned his skin. It landed upright on the floor. The lens rotated slowly toward Marcus. The shutter clicked again. Another photograph slid out. Marcus backed away. "Don't touch it." But Daniel couldn't look away. He picked up the developing image with shaking fingers. This time, the photograph showed a dark room. Basement-like. Concrete walls. chains hanging from the ceiling, and in the center stood Daniel alone. Behind him, towering over him, was the shadow figure. Its arms were impossibly long now, stretching downward like tendrils, and scrawled across the bottom of the image, in what looked like smeared blood, were 3 words: "It sees you." Daniel's pulse thundered in his ears. "It's escalating," Marcus said. "Every photo is getting closer." The clock on the wall ticked loudly. Las 11:18 p.m. The time stamp on Marcus's death. Photo, 12:03 a.m. Less than an hour. "We have to avoid the stairs," Daniel said quickly. "That's where it happens." Marcus nodded. "Then we stay away from them." They moved into the kitchen, putting distance between themselves and the staircase. The house felt tighter now, like the walls were inching inward. Every shadow seemed alive. Daniel kept glancing at the photos of Marcus lying dead. He memorized every detail: the angle of the body, the position of the head, the broken railing behind him. Broken railing. Daniel's eyes snapped to the staircase. The railing was intact. "It breaks," he murmured. "That's part of it." Suddenly, a loud crack echoed from upstairs. Both men jumped. Another crack followed, wood splintering violently. Daniel's stomach dropped. "It's forcing it to happen," Marcus whispered. They watched in horror as the railing at the top of the staircase began to splinter on its own, wood snapping as if struck by an invisible hammer. Piece by piece, it weakened. "We're not going near it," Daniel said firmly. "It can't make it happen if we don't follow the pattern." The humming intensified again, vibrating through their bones. The camera shutter clicked once more. Another photo slid out. Daniel didn't want to look, but the image showed Marcus running toward the front door at 11:59 p.m. Behind him, the shadow figure emerged fully from the darkness, its head nearly touching the ceiling, and at the base of the stairs where the railing had collapsed, Marcus's foot caught on a splintered piece of wood. He fell backward. The final frame showed the exact moment his skull struck the corner of the step. Las 12:03 Daniel grabbed Marcus's shoulders. "It wants you to run. It wants you to panic." Marcus's breathing was ragged now. "Then what do we do?" The house suddenly went completely silent. No humming, no wind, no ticking clock. Nothing. A deep, oppressive stillness settled over everything. The digital clock on the microwave flickered. 11:57 p.m. time had jumped forward. "It's accelerating," Daniel whispered. 11:58 p.m. Marcus backed away, slowly. "It's trying to trap me. Las 11:59 de la noche. The front door burst open violently. Wind roared inside. The shadow figure stood framed in the doorway, taller than before, more solid, its form shifting like smoke wrapped around bone. Its hollow face tilted slightly, watching Marcus. Daniel screamed, "Don't move!" Marcus stood frozen. The clock changed. 12 a.m. The shadow took one step inside. The floorboards groaned beneath its weight. Daniel lunged forward and grabbed Marcus, pulling him into the kitchen and slamming the door behind them. Las 12:01 de la mañana. The kitchen floor gave way beneath Marcus's feet. He fell through the collapsing boards, disappearing into darkness below. Daniel dropped to his knees, screaming his name. A sickening thud, echoed from beneath the house. Silence followed. Daniel's body went numb. Slowly, trembling, he crawled toward the hole in the floor and looked down. Marcus lay twisted on broken concrete below, exactly as the photograph had shown, only in a different location. The time stamp had been right. The death had been inevitable. The shadow figure loomed behind Daniel in the kitchen doorway, and the camera, still intact, rested quietly on the counter, waiting for its next picture. Daniel didn't scream this time. The sound that left his mouth wasn't humanite, was hollow, broken. Something scraped raw from the deepest part of his chest. He stared down at Marcus's body in the darkness below the shattered kitchen floor. The fall had twisted him unnaturally, just like in the photograph. The future hadn't been avoided. It had simply adjusted. The camera hadn't lied. It had corrected the path. Slowly, Daniel felt a presence behind him. He didn't need to turn around to know what stood there. The temperature dropped sharply, frosting the edges of the broken wood around the hole. A faint distortion appeared on the stainless steel. Refrigerator Duran. Elongated shadow, stretching upward far, beyond the height. Daniel closed his eyes. His mind raced through every moment since the flea market. The old man's words echoed clearly now. It shows you what's coming, not warns you, not helps you, just shows you. Daniel understood something terrifying in that moment. The camera wasn't predicting random events. It was guiding them. Every photograph created a fixed point and anchor in time. The more he looked at the future, the more trapped he became inside it. Slowly, Daniel stood up and turned to face the figure. It no longer hid in mist or silhouette. It was more defined now, and tall, skeletal, wrapped in shifting darkness like smoke clinging to bone. Its face was featureless, except for two faint, hollow depressions where eyes should have been. Yet Daniel felt its gaze pressing into him, studying him, measuring him. The camera shutter clicked again behind him. Daniel didn't move. A new photo slid out onto the counter. The figure tilted its head slightly, as if inviting him to look. Daniel's breathing steadied. Something inside him shifted, not courage, exactly, but clarity. He walked slowly to the counter and picked up the developing photograph. The image formed gradually. It showed the same flea market stall from earlier that night. The old man sitting there again. But this time Daniel was in the picture too, standing behind the table, selling the camera. The timestamp read 1 week from today. Daniel's stomach dropped. Beneath the image were 5 simple words. The next owner is waiting. Daniel's heart pounded as realization hit him fully. The shadow wasn't there to kill him, not yet. The shadow wasn't there to kill him, not yet. It was there to prepare him. The camera didn't need victims. It needed carriers. The deaths were part of the ritual, part of the transformation. Each tragedy tied the owner closer to it. Marcus hadn't been random. He had been necessary. Daniel's knees weakened, but he forced himself to remain standing. "I won't do it," he whispered hoarsely. The shadow's form flickered, rippling like disturbed water. The house around them began to shift again. Walls stretched, ceiling beams twisted. The hole in the kitchen floor widened slowly, concrete cracking below. Daniel felt the weight of the camera's influence tightening around him like invisible chains. He glanced back down at Marcus's lifeless body. Guilt crushed him. "You used me," Daniel said through clenched teeth. The shadow took one slow step forward. The air vibrated violently. The camera's shutter clicked once more. Another photograph slid out. Daniel hesitated before picking it up. This one showed the basement-like room from the earlier image, concrete walls, chains hanging from above. But now the picture was clearer. Daniel stood in the center of the room, eyes hollow and empty. The shadow figure was gone, and in Daniel's hands was the camera. The bottom of the photograph read, "You already have." Daniel staggered backward. Memories flickered faintly at the edges of his mind, blurred, incomplete. Moments he couldn't fully place. A strange familiarity when he first saw the camera. A sense of déjà vu that he had ignored. The flea market stall. Had it always been that empty? Had anyone else been there? Or had it only ever been him? The shadow's form began dissolving slowly, its edges unraveling like smoke in wind. It didn't need to remain visible anymore. Its work was nearly complete. Daniel grabbed the camera from the counter and stared into the lens. The glass reflected his face, but distorted. Darker. Older. His eyes seemed slightly sunken, as if something behind them was peering outward. "You're not controlling me," he whispered. The lens shifted slightly. The shutter clicked again without ejecting a photo this time. Instead, the world around Daniel flickered violently. The broken kitchen floor restored itself. The staircase reassembled. The front door closed gently. The house returned to a perfect order. Daniel blinked in confusion. He stood alone in the living room. No hole in the floor. No shattered lights. No Marcus. His phone buzzed softly in his pocket. He pulled it out. A text message from Marcus. "Still coming over. Traffic's bad." Daniel's breath caught in his throat. He looked at the clock. 9:27 p.m. Earlier than when Marcus had arrived the first time. The camera rested in his hands, untouched, pristine. No cracks. No burn marks. The first photographed a body. On the porch sat, on the table exactly where it had earlier. In the night, Daniel felt time folding around him like paper. The events had happened, and yet they hadn't. The camera hadn't shown a fixed future. It had shown possibilities, and it had chosen the one that bound him to it. The memory of Marcus's death lingered painfully clear. Even if reality had reset, that meant something. It meant the cost was still real. The camera was giving him a chance. One final choice. His phone buzzed again. "You there, man." Danny looked at the camera. If Marcus came over again, the cycle would repeat. The shadow would return. Another anchor point would form. Daniel understood now that the only way to break the loop was to refuse the role entirely. No witnesses, no new deaths, no future to photograph. Slowly, deliberately, he grabbed a metal poker and used it to pry open the lens casing. It resisted at first, vibrating slightly, but Daniel pressed harder. The glass cracked. A high-pitched screech filled the room, not from the house, but from inside his mind. Memories flashed violently. Other houses, other nights, other faces staring at photographs in horror. He saw glimpses of himself standing behind that flea market stall, older each time, passing the camera forward. Again, and again, and again, and no more. Daniel growled through tears. With one final forceful strike, he shattered the lens completely. The screech stopped instantly. The house fell silent. The air warmed slightly. The camera went dead. In his hands just plastic and broken glass. Daniel collapsed to his knees, sobbing quietly, overwhelmed by grief and relief all at once. His phone buzzed again. He answered, this time. "Hey, Marcus said casually on the other end. You okay? Daniel swallowed hard. Yeah, he whispered. Yeah, I'm okay. He looked at the broken camera pieces scattered across the floor. No humming, no movement. Whoost. Silence. Outside, the fog began to thin, revealing the quiet street beyond. Actually, Daniel added softly, don't come over tonight. There was a pause. Everything all right? Yeah, Daniel said firmly. Everything's going to be. After hanging up, Daniel gathered every fragment of the shattered camera and placed them inside a metal toolbox. He drove far from Blackridge. That night past the coastline, past the forests, into an abandoned quarry miles away, under the pale moonlight. He dug deep into the earth, buried the pieces carefully. No markings, no symbols, just earth covering something that would never see light again. As he filled the final layer of dirt, a breeze swept gently across the quarry. For a moment, Daniel felt a faint vibration in his chest, like a distant echo trying to reach him, but it faded quickly. The silence that followed felt different, clean, final. Daniel stood there for a long staring time at the ground. The future was uncertain, now unwritten, and for the first time since that night began, that uncertainty felt beautiful instead of terrifying. Days, Bassett, then weeks. Marcus remained alive. The house stayed normal. No shadows, no humming, no photographs sliding from nowhere. Daniel returned to his regular photography work, but he changed. He stopped chasing the dramatic, stopped looking for what might happen next. Instead, he focused on what was right in front of him. Sunlight on water, laughter at weddings, quiet smiles between strangers. He learned something the camera never understood. The future isn't meant to be seen. It's meant to be lived. One quiet evening, nearly a month later, Daniel stood on his porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in soft orange and purple hues. The same porch where, in another timeline, a body had once lain. He felt the weight of that memory, but it no longer controlled him. His phone buzzed with a message from Marcus. Drinks tonight. Daniel smiled faintly. Yeah, he typed back. I'll be there. He slipped his phone into his pocket and stepped off the porch, locking the door. As he walked toward his car, the wind rustled gently through the pine trees, and for the first time since buying that cursed camera, Daniel felt something simple and powerful. Peace. The future no longer stared back at him through a lens. It waited quietly, hadn't touched, unseen, and beautifully his.